The fourth Sunday of Lent brings to us some very strong and almost distressing readings. The first reading comes from the book of Chronicles, and it paints a picture of the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple, and reminds us of what the Jewish people went through in being exiled to the city of Babylon, which today is around Baghdad. Very interestingly. Actually, they were exiled to Iraq. So the message of this scripture passage resonates with a number of things that have been going on in contemporary world. Those words of the Chronicles is very disheartening almost. Their enemies burnt the house of God, tore down the walls of Jerusalem, set all its palaces afire, and destroyed all its precious objects. This passage, certainly for the Jewish people, is very, you might say, really cuts them to the heart, because it reminds them of a terrible time in which their beautiful temple, all of the holy objects they would use in that temple were carried away by the Chaldeans, and they were taken to, we today call Baghdad. The area of Baghdad was where they were exiled. But it also reminds us of that whole area of Iraq to which our Holy Father made his recent pilgrimage, to those Christians in that land. At one time, they made up 10% of Iraq. Now they make up barely a percentage. They've been decimated. They've been terrorized. As the scripture points out, their houses of God have been burnt down. The walls of everything, their houses are totally destroyed. And the holy objects, statues, altars have been totally decimated. Why would the Holy Father go to this area of the world with such a small number of Christians? And on top of it, just recently, one of even our troops were attacked with missiles, ballistic missiles, on their site. Why would he go there? It was a danger, a risk, and COVID-19 is also a problem. But yet the Holy Father went there. And where he went was just very moving. There's one scene where he sat on a throne, a small throne, in the middle of a square, on which were 4 different churches of Catholic and Orthodox background and tradition that were in ruins. And the crowd was in front of him, and he would preach to them and talk with them. And he preached them about how the Lord's with them, that he is here from Rome. In a sense, he brings Rome to them. And those words, if anybody was aware of it in that crowd, and I think all the people were, just those words were very powerful. Because just months ago, there was a man who was the leader of what they called the Caliphate, who set up his headquarters right there in that city of Mosul, and was proclaiming that not only has he conquered Iraq and Syria, but he will even go to Rome and conquer Rome. And it was interesting, the Pope is saying, yes, I'm here. Rome has come to you. I am not conquered. I am free to bring the gospel message to you. And he made the gospel message clear to them, a message of encouragement and hope, of forgiveness and peace. He himself showed by going and visiting one of another religious leader, a Shia Muslim. He went to visit him in his home, walked down narrow walkways, alleys, you might say, small streets, to come to a very modest home of this very famous, they call him a Shia Muslim. It's a group within Islam that has its own traditions. And this Shia Muslim received him, doesn't usually accept visitors at all, especially foreign visitors, but he accepted the Pope. The Pope and he conversed for almost an hour in his home, talking about the situation. And then a statement was released from the Shia Muslim leader that said Christians should be respected. They're part of our country. They have to be acknowledged and respected to exist in our country. He himself was opposed to this caliphate that was trying to destroy all of Iraq under its power. That was the message of the Pope. The Pope comes to encourage, and I think we forget that's one of his major roles. We sometimes think of him as the head of the church and this powerful figure, and he decides all these things. But one of his real roles, as Jesus said to Peter, was, Peter, you are to encourage your brothers and sisters after you go through some difficulties. You will encourage them in the faith. And that's one of the great roles all of us have as Christians, is to encourage, to lift up people. And sometimes it takes a risk. He took a risk. I mean, he's not in the best of health. He has what they call sciatica, and it's very difficult for him to walk around. He was under, you might say, the threat of who knows what might have happened, what explosion, what group might have tried to take him out. And yet he went. Not because he wants to be important, but because he wants to tell them they're important and give them encouragement. There are people in our hospitals and our nursing homes all over that are risking their lives to keep and take care of us. There are people on duty in different places of our country. There are people going to help people in floods and hurricanes and in fires in many places of our country. They take a risk. We take a risk. We have to take a risk to encourage, to show love, and to support our brothers and sisters in the Christian faith. Let this be an example to you, an encouragement to all of us to be these kinds of Christians, helping each other and supporting each other in the Christian faith.